So, hi, good morning. After how long? 1 month. I think more than 1 month. For 1 month, I was not in Delhi itself. So, from last 25 days, I was not in Delhi. So, and I have also forgotten that what was the last topic in your class. Allahabad, which means Bengal, we have completed. So, how was heat of Delhi? Somehow I was saved from heat of Delhi. I heard that someday it went 52 degrees Celsius. It's I think it's recorded in India. So how you were surviving in Delhi? मैं भी यहीं का हूँ लेकिन बच गया था. So चलो I think it is class number 7 today or 6 7. So we'll start with the topic of the Mysore and we'll complete the topic of the Mysore and so as we'll go into the topic of the Maratha. So actually I'm coming from Mysore only and the topic is Mysore only. So chalo, let's start with the and what all topics you not topics बीच में क्या subjects पढ़े थे? Geography, economics. Oh, prelims देने जा रहे हो? Anyone giving exam this year? Anyone? You giving? Chalo, best of luck. So, give me 1 minute. So, Mysore we are going to start then. And as far as the Mysore's territory is concerned, just have a look at it. So, when we look at the Mysore's territory, so regional power of Mysore, it was touching Maharashtra also, even parts of Telangana also, and the entire South Karnataka. So this much we can roughly say that this was the territory of the Mysore at its climax, not in the beginning, but climax meaning that when Tipu Sultan has ascended to the power or by the end of the life of the Hyder Ali. So we'll see further the things related to it. First of all, the origin of Mysore. So originally Mysore, if you go into the history of this part of the country, so 11th to 14th century there was a kingdom in Karnataka which was known as Hoysala kingdom, and the Hoysala's power was now taken over by Vijayanagar. Then, so Vijayanagar emerged in 1336, which continued till 1640. But then one of the adversary of the Vijayanagar kingdom was the Bahmani kingdom, which is at the top of the Mysore, that is Maharashtra area, covering the parts of the Karnataka, particularly North Karnataka. So they were adversaries and they were in the constant fight. In 1565, there was a very decisive battle between Vijayanagar kingdom and the 5 houses of Bahmani. So this battle is famously known as Battle of Talikota. And in Battle of Talikota, Vijayanagar kingdom was thoroughly defeated. That's how from 1565 disintegration of the Vijayanagar started, and by 1640, so the Vijayanagar kingdom became non-existent, and the officers of the Vijayanagar kingdom, the important military officers, they carved out their own space or independent kingdoms for themselves. One of the independent kingdom which came out from the Vijayanagar was the Mysore. Then, so Mysore was basically one of the viceroyalty of the Vijayanagar, and by the end of the Vijayanagar kingdom, it has become a full-fledged kingdom. So the rulers who were there in the Mysore, or the dynasty which ruled in the Mysore, was Wadayar dynasty, and it is still surviving dynasty of the Mysore. In fact, they are still regarded as the Maharajas of the Mysore. In fact, they had a very good relation with the British in the later times. So first of all, so Wadayar Raja was Krishna Raja Wadayar, and we are talking about after 1707. So when 1707, when Aurangzeb died, so he has also annexed some parts of the Mysore, and Mysore reasserted its autonomy and its independence, and it became a full-fledged kingdom. So now, Krishna Raja Wadayar was the initial ruler when death of the Aurangzeb has happened. His rule was all fine, but then there were 2 aspirational or ambitious ministers of the Krishna Raja Wadeyar. Their names were Nanjaraj and uh, Devaraj. So these two brothers, they usurped power. Usurped, you understand? Okay, हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना हथिया लेना. So they usurped power from the king. He was house arrested, and then they started to they started the administration of the Mysore, and control of Mysore was completely in their hand. So this is the story till 1761, that they are controlling the Mysore politics. But from where Hyder Ali came? So Hyder Ali, basically, he was a petty soldier in the Mysore's army when Nanjaraj and Devaraj were ruling Mysore. So he was a petty soldier. Petty, I hope you understand that. What does it mean? That Hindi में बोलते हैं ना adna sa, meaning that he must have started his career with a just a normal sipahi or normal soldier. Another thing about the Hyder Ali, that he was uneducated, and so just like many of the rulers in the history, you will learn about later that some of the actually in the reality, some of the rulers who left a heavy impact on the Indian history were illiterate. One name you all know, any Akbar. Then so Akbar was illiterate, and so as Alauddin Khilji. And so both of them, they had this similarity, that both of them were illiterate. In fact, see, Alauddin Khilji has many such that controversial, that he did many controversial things also, and at the same point of time he was notorious also. But as far as his market policy is concerned, he was considered as the master of the market policy. We'll see in the ancient and medieval history. I'm not going to talk much about it. And Akbar, so Akbar was illiterate not by choice but by compulsion. Why I'm making this statement? Not by choice, meaning that if somebody does not wants to be educated, so that's a different thing, that's by choice. But then he was illiterate by compulsion. Compulsion means that he was not able to read and write because he was suffering from a one genetic disorder. And what was disorder? Dyslexia. Have you heard this? What is this dyslexia? Not able to read and write. So suppose that even if anything is created on this particular, so Mysore which is written, so it will not be visible to him. The letters would be floating in the air. So he'll not be able to figure out that what is written. Then, so I think those who have seen the movie Tare Zameen Par, so that is about the dyslexia only. So this is, he was dyslexic. But it is also said that Akbar became one of the greatest ruler of that time just because he was dyslexic and he was not able to read and write. So he made it a case that every day then somebody would be reading good books to him. And by the time he was going to assume the power, he was well read. And people were reading the books for him. So that's how he acquired good things from the reading books. Anyways, we are talking about the Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali was also uneducated, but that does not mean that he did not had the vision. So he was a man of vision. Then, and not this one, okay? So he was man of vision, and then he has a vision for the Mysore and technological development of the Mysore. And actually, when he came to power, so in 1761. By that point of time, due to his capacity and capability, he has risen to the position of commander-in-chief of the Mysore forces. And in 1761, he threw the Nanjaraj and Devaraj from the power, and he came to power. So 1761 onwards, it was the rule of Hyder Ali, and then after Tipu Sultan, his son, in 1782. So just mention a little bit. You write. So what is the heading? Regional power of Mysore. Regional power of Mysore. So mention. Mysore was originally, nowadays you know how you write the Mysore. So the actual old name of the Mysore, it is written like this, Mysuru. Okay? So you can mention this way also. So Mysuru was the viceroyalty, of Vijayanagar kingdom. Viceroyalty of Vijayanagar kingdom. Then mention. Full stop. After Battle of Talikota, in 1565, after after Battle of Talikota in 1565, decline of Vijayanagar started. Decline of Vijayanagar started. Then mention further. Decline of Vijayanagar started. At this point of time, Mysore emerged as Mysore emerged as an independent territory from Vijayanagar. An independent territory. Mysore emerged as an independent territory carved out from Vijayanagar. So you can write this way: carved out from Vijayanagar. Carved out from Vijayanagar. Then mention during the regime of Aurangzeb. During the regime of Aurangzeb, some of the area of Mysore came under Mughal captivity. Came under Mughal captivity. Mughal captivity. Then mention came under Mughal captivity. Full stop. Later, after death of Aurangzeb, Mysore restored its complete independence. Mysore restored its complete independence under Wadiyar rulers. Under Wadiyar rulers. Mention. Then Krishna Raja Wadiyar. Krishna Raja Wadiyar was the ruler of Mysore in the initial decades. Was the ruler of Mysore in the initial decades of 18th century. In the initial decades of 18th century. Then sorry. Then mention initial decades of 18th century. Full stop. By 1730s, two of his ministers. By 1730s, two of his ministers, that is Nanjaraj and Devaraj. Nanjaraj and Devaraj usurped. Nanjaraj and Devaraj usurped the power from Krishnaraj Wadiyar and started to rule. Usurped power from Krishnaraj Wadiyar and started to rule. Full stop. So now you can write a subtitle Hyderly. This subtitle and then mention. He was a petty soldier in Mysore's army. Petty soldier in Mysore's army. Though he was illiterate, but a man of immense capacity, but a man of but a man of immense capacity and capability. Full stop. Fortune was on his side. Fortune was on his side, and he was also highly visionary. Fortune was on his side, and he was also highly visionary. Due to his effective functioning, due to his effective functioning, he rose to, due to his effective functioning, he rose to the position of Commander in Chief, position of Commander in Chief of Mysore forces. Commander in Chief of Mysore forces. In 1761, 1761, in 1761, he threw Nanjaraj and Devraj. He threw Nanjaraj and Devraj from power, or removed, you can write, he removed Nanjaraj and Devraj from power and installed himself as the ruler of Mysore, and installed himself as the ruler of Mysore. So now, see, Mysore's background was required because there are so many complexities. Once you, whatever you have heard, when we'll be reading ancient and medieval, so then there would be a clarity. Okay? And in fact, there are n number of the dynasties from the southern India, particularly in the Karnataka part, right from the 345 AD until 14th century. Large number of the dynasties were there. And these dynasties have been frequently questions have been framed by UPSC in the prelims examination. There, that's the place where people feel कि ancient medieval थोड़ा tough हो गया है. Last year paper also, many of the dynasties from the Karnataka, they were asked. And previously also. In fact, there are the dynasties whose names are very similar. That what is the name in the Karnataka, same name dynasty also existing in the Odisha. Then, so like Western Ganga dynasty. So we need to be very careful in the ancient and medieval, particularly when it comes to the dynasties and their timeline. Always remember that in that particular part, you have to be very well versed with the timeline. Okay? So we'll see that what we'll be doing in the ancient and medieval. But here, this is also connected to the ancient and medieval part itself. So 1761, now the new rulers. So just like Bengal, what we did in the Bengal, salient features of the Bengal. So here also, let's look at the salient aspects of the Mysore. Let me explain to you that how we are going in this particular topic. So first we'll list all the important features of the Mysore. Then we'll go into a new theme I'm incorporating in this one. The reasons which led to the fight of Mysore with its neighbor. First understand that there are many neighbors of Mysore. In this particular map, so these neighbors, who are the neighbors of Mysore? Just have a look. So neighbors of Mysore on this side, particularly Marathas. Then this is Nizam of Hyderabad. So yes, so here is Hyderabad, this entire part. Then comes this entire area is Carnatic. Then so Carnatic is under the influence of the British, and this particular area is the kingdom of Travancore. So actually, Mysore is a complex topic in relation to the fight. Why so? Mysore didn't have just one enemy, that is British, but actually it has many enemies, that is Maratha, Hyderabad, and even Travancore also. So there is a complex interplay of the things. So first, what we'll do, that we will list the reasons that why Mysore. Okay? So we'll list the reasons that why Mysore had so many fights with the neighbors then, and Mysore itself was responsible for it. It's not like that ki everybody is going berserk, but then Mysore itself was responsible. And then after we'll go into the 4 wars, starting from 1767 and ending by 1799. So let's write a topic, heading you mentioned, salient features of Mysore. Salient features of Mysore. And see that when we are writing that salient features of Mysore, so we are not writing from the perspective of the Wadiyar dynasty, from the Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan's perspective, that what they have done. So understand, first of all, we said now that Hyder Ali, though he was illiterate, but then he was a man of vision and then capacity. So by this point of time, when Hyder Ali was commander-in-chief of the forces, by 1755 itself, he was commander-in-chief of the forces. So Hyder Ali has realized that who are the big enemies? Big enemies could be the other powers who have the sophisticated weapons and technology. And he knew the importance of having a very strong army, and not just strong, but also sophisticated weapons, then the new technology, new weapons. So now at this point of time, with the help of the French, he established a modern arsenal at Dindigul. Dindigul in today's time, it falls in Tamil Nadu area. And Dindigul, what is this arsenal? So arsenal is basically weapon making factory. And so he created this weapon making factory at Dindigul. Then moreover, he had a good relation with this particular people, French people. So his initial friendship was not an initial cap, baad mein kabhi bhi, okay? He never had any friendship with the British. So with the French support, he did it. Moreover, that with the French support, he also introduced Western methods of army training, and that was very effective. So Western methods of army training was introduced. Then third, there are many discussions on the army itself. And the next one, see, he organized his army through Risala system. It is interesting that what is this Risala system? So his army was organized as per Risala system. Now, might be this word you may not be knowing, but it's very easy to understand. What is Risala system? This is how the French army was also organized. So what he did, that in Risala system, Risala in general way or colloquial way, it is unit. Okay? So we can also say at a unit system. Abhi likhna nahi, nothing. So what he did, that he divided or classified his army into many risalas or many units. Suppose that he is creating 10 units of his army. Okay? So these 10 units will be called as 10 risala. Then, so 10 risala. And moreover, what was the other attribute of the risala is that in each of the risala, there was equal number of soldiers, horses, and weapons. So suppose in Risla 1, okay, I'm saying this as a Risla 1, beach mein jo bhi hai, and this is Risla 10. So if there is 100 horses in Risla 1, so in all the Rislas, there would be 100 horses. If 10,000 soldiers are there in Risla, in unit 1, so in all the units, 10,000 soldiers. Similarly, weapons also. And similarly, each of the Risla will be having one commander. Then, so one commander. So now, meaning that equal division of the army with weapons, soldiers and horses, and one commander in each of the Risala. Another very important thing over here, that there was a direct chain of command starting from the ruler going up to the soldiers. This is to be understood very carefully. Since it's been time that Bengal episode we completed, but I hope even in the faded memory you must have, you must be remembering that details which I told you about the war of Palasi. What I said, you remember that we mentioned now there were 3 parts of the Bengal army. One was led by Sirajud-Dowla, one was led by Mir Madan, and one by Mir Zafar. So there was no direct chain of command, because the unit which is under Mir Zafar, it will only listen to Mir Zafar, okay? Because he has been given entire power to carry that particular unit, and he did not give any command. He did not ask that particular unit to move. So that is the case of the disaster. But here, Hyder Ali, so each and every commander will have to repeat the command of the Hyder Ali. They cannot give the command on themselves. So that is what we are saying, that direct chain of command. So meaning that if Hyder Ali is saying giving the command, so that command will be repeated by the commander and everything will be acting on the advice of the Hyder Ali. So that's what is the difference, and that's why there was a complete control on the Mysore's army by the rulers rather than giving it to the commanders and then the other officers. So mention, you write, start with the very first one. Number one, with the help of French officials, with the help of French officials, Hyder Ali created, with the help of French officials, Hyder Ali created a modern arsenal at Dindigul. A modern arsenal at Dindigul. And arsenal, you can mention weapon making factory. Then modern arsenal at Dindigul. Then you write number two. He also introduced Western methods of training. He also introduced Western methods of training in his army. In brackets you can write similar to French model. Similar to French model. Then change next feature you write. He organized his army under Risala system. He organized his army under Risala system. Full stop. Whereby army was divided into many risalas or units. Many risalas or units. Full stop. Many risalas or units. Each of the risala had equal number of soldiers, horses. Each of the risala had equal number of soldiers, horses, weapons, and a commander. Directly appointed by Hyder Ali. Full stop. There was clear chain of command. Starting from the ruler and going up to the soldiers. So now let's look at the next part. Basically the revenue administration part, and then once again we'll come back to army. But uske pehle revenue is to be discussed. So when it comes to the revenue administration of the these people, okay? So it was actually inspired from the Mughal model with little bit of changes. So changes I'll tell you, but first of all, what was the system? So since we haven't studied about the Mughal model was that during the time of the Akbar, the finance minister of Akbar, or basically Mughal Empire, was Raja Todarmal, who was king of Banaras. Then, in fact, there were many kings who were the part of the Akbar's administration, which included even Birbal also, and so as the Raja Man Singh of Amer. So our point is Raja Todarmal of Banaras, who was finance minister of Akbar. He came up with a system of classification of land. And what was the classification of land? So basically Raja Todarmal classified land on the basis of fertility. Likhna nahi, in ancient medieval you'll be writing, just listen to this part. So he classified land into 4 categories on the basis of fertility, and these lands were Polaj, Parati, Kachar, Banjar. Polaj, the most fertile land. Every year cultivation was done on it. Parati, Parati is a Hindi word many of you must be knowing also. Parati का मतलब होता है एक साल छोड़ देना, ठीक है? So meaning that land is left fallow for 1 year to regain fertility. So suppose that if they are doing cultivation in 2024, in 2025 no cultivation, next cultivation would be in 2026. So taxes were imposed on the Parthi land only on the year of cultivation. Similarly, Kachar land left fallow for 2 years to regain fertility. So cultivation year, in that year only the taxes would be imposed. And Banjar is the least fertile land where it is left fallow for 5 or 6 years jab tak, okay, till the time it becomes fertile again. So taxes were imposed only in the year of fertility, then or in only in the year of cultivation. So this was a progressive system कि जितनी income उतनी taxes. Polaj obviously every year cultivation, so income is high, so then every year taxes. But Parthi alternate year taxes. Then Kachar after 3-year taxes, and Banjar only in the year of cultivation. So this is progressive system. Now in Mysore also it was adopted, this particular system, that land was surveyed and then it was classified according to fertility. And so survey of land and classification of land according to fertility. But then there was little bit of change from the Mughal model. So what was it? That here the taxes were collected in Mysore, taxes were collected by salaried officials. Okay? Salaried official, and taxes were collected only in the cash. No kind, no other thing. Okay? So only in the cash. But Mughal period mein cash and kind both were there then. And then moreover, salaried officials were not there. Granting was done in the Mughal time. So this is little change which they have done. So you always remember कि salaried official का एक फायदा होता है. That is basically that suppose if you are paid 50,000 salary and collecting the revenue, so if you are gaining much or if you are just doing the theft of some of the taxes that you have collected, so it can be checked that how come this much wealth has come to you then. So a little bit of less corruption would be there as compared to the Mughal model in this model. Okay? So now revenue administration was very strong and it actually provided them huge amount of money. Then comes a discussion. So I'm just writing on the board, military fiscalism. So since you said that ki economics पढ़ना start कर दिया है, so have you gone into the budget part? अभी नहीं, ठीक है. So but anyways, I hope you know that generally the revenue policy of government is called as fiscal policy. ये तो पता है ना. Even if you अगर जो class में नहीं भी पढ़ा है तो भी we can have a discussion on it that what is the fiscal policy or the revenue policy. So every year, so for example this year in February there was a partial budget because it is the election year. So now government will be coming up with the budget in 4 or 5 days. I think in this month only. So this season when it will start, so new budget would be tabled. So budget mein, whenever you are watching TV, so you must have seen that the very first information comes कि government has allocated this much percentage of this year's budget proposal into health sector, 2% health sector, 5% this sector, 10% this sector. I hope you must have heard. So जितना भी budget का amount है, suppose करो that budget amount is $400 billion then. So if they say that out of the $400 billion, 10% would be allocated to army, which means $40 billion will be allocated to army. So this is how we understand the budget. Now what is military fiscalism? It is very similar to the thing allocation of the budget. अब ध्यान से समझना. See, if whatever be the income of a government of India, so whatever be the budget proposal, suppose $400 billion ही जो हमने बोला, let's take it. So $400 billion is the budget proposal for year 2024 to 25. Out of it, if the government of India allocates $201 billion, okay, meaning more than 50%. So $201 billion for the development of the army. So then this entire budget will be called as military fiscalism. Now getting it? समझ में आ रहा है? जब income का आधा से ज़्यादा portion is given to the army, so that will be called as military fiscalism, and Mysore was following it. So whatever their spendings were there, more than half of it was allocated to the army. It was not seen in any part of the India. It was only in the Mysore. Rest of the places 30%, 25%. This was the allocation of the money of yearly income. But here more than 50%. So that's why Mysore's revenue policy is often said as revenue fiscalism. You got it then? So that's one thing. Then let's come to the other aspects of it. So their initiatives related to agriculture. Now let's understand that in agriculture also their initiatives were quite good, and they were aware about the industry, manufacturing industry. So manufacturing industries of those times were basically dependent on the agricultural produce, and they promoted agricultural manufacturing. So what is agricultural manufacturing? For example, all of us in this class, we are wearing, particularly in the summer season, we prefer cotton. Then, so cotton textile. Cotton is a product of agriculture, obviously. So textile industry. So as Mysore is also very famous for sericulture. Have you heard sericulture? What is it? Silk weaving. Okay? So silk worm rearing, and then after silk weaving. So let me tell you one interesting take on it, that one of the very famous sari, basically silk sari if we talk about, that is the Kanjivaram silk. Kanjivaram is produced over there in the, it is a sub-town of the Chennai. Right? So some of the famous silk saris are from the Chennai area. But then the production areas are all in Mysore. Okay? So production area is all in Mysore, and it was from the time of the Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan that there was a huge focus on planting of mulberry trees. Mulberry, you know? इसी tree पे the silk worm rearing happens, ठीक है? Because silk worm eats the leaf of the mulberry tree. So these plantations were done by them, and even till this point of time the tradition continues. So this is the belt which is known for the mulberry trees, and so as the silk rearing. Again, then so sericulture was promoted, and even cotton textile was also promoted. So manufacturing industry was heavily promoted. Then apart from it, Mysore also knew that if you are producing many manufactured goods, so then you need to have buyers, then not just in India but outside India also. So they started sending many trade missions. Okay? So they started sending many trade missions to the other countries, like the countries where Afghanistan, the countries was Iran, so as Turkey, and so as France also. So these all places they are sending trade missions. For example, that this trade mission which we are talking about, so many of you must be aspiring to become IFS officer, या कुछ लोग बन भी जाओगे, obviously बनोगे. So what is the main job of the IFS officers? Promoting India outside India in the other countries. And how you promote India? By promoting the Indian trade. Obviously the most important is the trade itself, that at least the other countries, they must be convinced to purchase the Indian goods then, and Indian commodities. So this is how they were also doing, that Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, they were sending these missions to these countries. In fact, they had very good relations, particularly with the France and Turkey and Afghanistan also. Iran can't be said, but Afghanistan, France and Turkey, they shared a very good relation. So mention, you're right. You have written about the RISLA and chain of command, I think. Okay. So next point you write after RISLA 1. So revenue policy. Mysore had very effective revenue policy. Very effective revenue policy. Then mention very effective revenue policy. It followed the Mughal model. it followed the Mughal model whereby land was surveyed whereby land was surveyed and classified whereby land was surveyed and classified according to its fertility. Land was surveyed and classified according to its fertility. Then full stop, then mention according to its fertility, full stop. Revenue was collected by salaried officials. Revenue was collected by salaried officials, and it was collected only in cash. Revenue was collected by salaried officials, and it was collected only in cash. Done? Then mention. Next point. Very often, next point, this is not the same point. So very often, Mysore's fiscal policy or revenue policy, Mysore's fiscal policy or revenue policy is referred as military fiscalism. Is referred as military fiscalism. Military fiscalism, full stop. Which means more than 50% of their revenue, which means more than 50% of their revenue was allocated to army or military, was allocated to army or military. Done? Army or military. Then, so now let's come to the next part. Next point you write. Both Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan promoted agricultural manufacturing in Mysore. Whereby sericulture and textile industry was promoted. Sericulture and textile industry was promoted. Then was promoted. Then mention. In the same, you can add in this statement only, after full stop, just mention. They also repaired the old irrigation channels. They also repaired the old irrigation channels and also created new ones. Also created new ones. Then, so this is one part. Ek last one you write. Last point. They also sent many trade missions. They also sent many trade missions to countries like Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, and France. Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, and France. So these places they have sent the trade missions. That so this is what is about the salient features of the Mysore. Now, as I mentioned to you that first we'll go with the reasons which led to the fight between Mysore English and the neighbors of the Mysore. So just write the title. We'll go into a discussion. So mention reasons which led to reasons which led to fight of Mysore with its neighbors. With its neighbors. Then, so now understand. The very first one is rapid territorial expansion of Mysore within a very quick pace of time. So, please give me one. So once again, I'm creating this map of the Mysore. Last one was little bigger. So now understand what all kingdoms which are there on the top. Maratha, then Nizam of Hyderabad, Carnatic, and the remaining one is Travancore. So these are the kingdoms. Now understand, see that the areas which Mysore is sharing, it's sharing with the Maratha on the top, Maratha Nizam on this side, and then Carnatic British from this side, and so as this side Travancore. So four effective neighbors are there. But then see, this is a monarchical age when we are talking about 1760s, 70s. Then so it is a monarchical age, and in monarchical age, can you say that there used to be the confirmed boundaries between the states? Will there be confirmed boundary? Confirmed boundary हो ही नहीं सकता, ठीक है? The reason is that see there is no such confirmed mechanism to control these boundaries, and these areas जो white color which I have created, it is basically I would write it as a buffer zone. So I'm writing it as a buffer zone. So basically in each of the adjoining kingdoms there used to be buffer zone. Buffer zone is the area which is basically, so suppose Maratha side and Mysore side if we are talking about. So Mysore would not claim its authority on this much side, and Marathas will not claim their authority on this much side. So basically who are people who are living in the border areas, or basically the local chiefs who will be there in the border areas, they will have more autonomy, more power, because both the powers will not claim their authority. So they lead in a kind of a effective or peaceful life. But then, you know what Hyder Ali did? That single-handedly or unilaterally, he tried to change the position of the buffer zones, and he tried to assimilate that annex their territories in the Mysore territory. So it must have been done with the consultation with the Maratha, so as the Nizam, so as the British, so as Travancore. But then he was doing it unilaterally. So when you do it unilaterally, that what leads to the border problem and the dispute. एक टाइम के लिए इसे छोड़ देते हैं, ठीक है? Let's leave it and let's discuss the today's scenario. See, we are living in a very advanced age, modern age. Then, and in this age, there are n number of the facilities to survey the borders. So the most important is the GPS itself, ठीक है? So GPS itself, and then many satellites and everything is there. So you can see that what developments are happening on the borders. Then, so despite these all, have you seen in the today's world countries having the confirmed boundaries or disputes are there? Disputes are there. India का dispute बताओ. From China, ठीक है, Pakistan, Bangladesh, ठीक है, Nepal, and so as Sri Lanka, ठीक है. Though Sri Lanka is off, ठीक है, it's in the sea, but then there is a claim on the Talai Mannar area and so as that maritime area. So, what is the name? Kacha Tivu island. Then, so there is the issue, but Sri Lanka is a smaller issue. The main issue is the Pakistan and China. Let's talk about the China. So, you all are aware about it that on one hand, China unleashed COVID into the world, and on the other hand, to divert the attention of its own people, it started a border dispute with India. Then, so they are encroaching. So, buffer zones which are there, India's border with the China in Leh Ladakh. What is it? LAC or LOC? LAC. ठीक है? So LAC is a mutual boundary whereby there is a buffer zone. दोनों में से कोई क्रॉस नहीं करना चाहिए. India must not go into the buffer zone. China must not come into the buffer zone. So, and similarly, even the same concept is there in the Arunachal side also, McMahon line. Then, and same concept is there in the Pakistan side also, LOC, line of control. Then, so buffer zones is to be respected, but then it is not respected, and that's why our relationship with the China deteriorated. Then, in the recent part, anyways, it was deteriorated from the long time. Okay? And it's not just the deterioration of the China-India relation after the Nehruji became the prime minister. Actually, historically, India didn't had a very good relation with the China. Okay? You will learn in the Gupta period itself that how Chinese cheated India, but not here. We'll not talk about here. Then let's come to, chalo, India, China, मान सकते हैं कि that China is trying to dominate. But then, the most powerful countries in the world, do they have a confirmed boundary? Do the US has confirmed boundary with the Mexico? Tell me. Do they have the they are the one who created all these concepts of the satellite GPS and everything. They have a control on everything. But have you seen that whenever any election campaign is happening in the US, so last election campaign, I very well remember that one of the presidential candidate in US, his name, you know, that he said that he will seal entire Mexico border. He will create a wall over there. Have you heard it? Trump itself said then that he will create a wall. So despite US being the most powerful, it doesn't have the confirmed boundary. Now let's come to, do North Korea and South Korea have a confirmed boundary? No, they don't have confirmed boundary. 40th parallel line. Then, so 40th parallel line. Similarly, that China's encroachment in the South China Sea, China's confrontation with Vietnam, Philippines, okay, and so as Japan also on Senkaku Island. So, so if you look at the major countries of the world, even at this point of time where we have so much of sophisticated war technology and the weapons, we don't have confirmed boundaries. There exists a buffer zone. तो यहाँ तो ऐसा कुछ था ही नहीं. Obviously, so buffer zones were one of the areas, and this is what Hyder Ali did, that he tried to annex the buffer zones into his territory, and obviously it will be contested by his neighbors. So that's how Mysore became enemy of the not only the Maratha, Nizam, British, but also Travancore. And this expansion of the Hyder Ali has happened in a rapid way. Krishna River in the north and that Malabar coast in the southwest. So as far as the Krishna River is concerned, which color I haven't used, just give me 1 minute. So Krishna River, so Krishna emerges somewhere in the Maharashtra and it goes like this, and so it drains like this. That this is the what is the shape of the Krishna River. So Krishna, so boundary is touching the Krishna River, and what is Malabar? So this is the area of the Malabar, southwest area of the India, that is Malabar. So that's one thing. Then there are other reasons also. We'll see one by one. So एक बार लिखो, mention करो. Number 1, mention. In a very short span of time, there was rapid territorial expansion. In a very short span of time, there was rapid territorial expansion of Mysore under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. Under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. Full stop. Boundaries of Mysore stretched from boundaries of Mysore stretched from Krishna river in the north stretched from Krishna river in the north and Malabar in southwest and Malabar in southwest. Number 2, right? Initially Hyder Ali did not respected the buffer zones and unilaterally tried to annex the buffer zone territories held by Polygars and Deshmukhs. Held by Polygars and Deshmukh. Then mention after it Polygars and Deshmukh, full stop. This brought Mysore in confrontation. This brought Mysore in confrontation with its neighbors. This brought Mysore in confrontation with its neighbors. So this is what is about this particular part. Let's look at the other things then, which is bringing Mysore in confrontation with the neighbors. So another is that the Francophile policy of the Mysore was not liked by the British. And what is Francophile? Franco means France and phil means brotherly treatment. So the brotherly treatment or the deep relation with the France was not liked by the Britain, and they were arch rivals that we are seeing from the long time. So that is another reason. Then apart from it, there are a few more reasons. So in 1785, you listen very carefully. In 1785, Tipu Sultan, when he was in the power, so he issued an instruction. And as per this instruction, he stopped any kind of black pepper and the cardamom trade from the port areas of the Mysore. So black pepper and cardamom, and in fact if we look at the areas of the production of the black pepper and cardamom, it is entirely the Malabar coast only, Nilgiri hills, then so cardamom hills. So these are the one which are controlled by the Tipu Sultan, yes. So Tipu Sultan. So now obviously the British trade in the black pepper and cardamom is affected. Uske baad in 1788 once again he came up with one more instruction whereby he banned any kind of trade with the British. Then so now British will not be happy with it and they will be taking the offense. Then so this is the reason that they will be planning a much bigger attack on the Mysore. And last but not the least, that Mysore has an intention, okay? That Mysore has an intention to annex all the South Indian states and so as also to control Maratha politics and create a bigger Islamic kingdom in the South India, and they also wanted to throw out the British from India. So this is the intention which was not liked by anybody. So Nizam will not like it, then so as Maratha, so as Travancore, and so as British. So that's how all of them turned out to be the enemies of the Mysore in these wars. So mention, you write. Next point, just point, you write. The Francophile policy, you can see the spelling. Francophile policy of Mysore. In brackets you can write brotherly treatment to France. The Francophile policy of Mysore, or brotherly treatment to France, was highly detested was highly detested by was highly detested by English was highly detested by English. And then next point you write. In 1785, in 1785, Tipu Sultan Tipu Sultan came up with an instruction. Tipu Sultan came up with an instruction whereby he banned trade of black pepper and cardamom trade of black pepper and cardamom from the ports in his territory full stop. Then mention in 1788 he explicitly banned any kind of trade with British East India Company. He explicitly banned any kind of trade with British East India Company. Done. Company was offended by it. Then last you write 5. So next point mention. Both Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan wanted to create a big Islamic kingdom of South India. With a desire to control Maratha politics also. Then, so these are the reasons which have led to the fight between them all. So now we have listed it. देखो कभी कभी क्या होता है that sometimes they don't ask, obviously they don't ask a specific war, that's a reality. Specific war they only ask in the prelims examination. When it comes to the mains exam, so they might ask you this kind of question, that what were the reasons which led to the fight of Mysore with all of its neighbors. So there you can list like this. Okay. So now we are formally moving towards the fights. Okay. So formally moving towards the fights, and the 4 wars were there. These 4 wars, very first one starting in 1767 continued till 1769, second 1780 to 84, third 1790 to 92, and the last one was in 1799. So last one was the very shortest. It was finished within 40 days only. So let's start with the very first Anglo-Mysore War. Mention a title: Anglo-Mysore War. So first Anglo-Mysore War, not Anglo-Mysore. First Anglo-Mysore War. So listen. So how it all started? Actually, the war between British and Mysore was not in the beginning. It was actually the fight between Mysore and Maratha. So when Hyder Ali has tried to subjugate the Polygars and the Deshmukh in the buffer zones, so that is the time when Marathas attacked on Mysore. So when the Marathas attacked on Mysore, so that is the time that the same type of grievance was also there with the Nizam of Hyderabad and the British in Carnatic. They also attacked on Mysore. So the very first war was that on one side Hyder Ali and on the other side Maratha, Nizam and British. So now Hyder Ali realized that he cannot fight with the three enemies. So he cannot fight with the three enemies, and obviously he'll be defeated. So looking at the situation, he went ahead with the diplomatic tactics, whereby he assured Maratha and Nizam that they can solve their problems of the territorial dispute by discussion, by having a meeting. Okay, so face-to-face meeting and the discussion rather than fighting. So he convinced them and detached them from the war for border dispute discussion. On the other hand, he did not persuade British, and instead persuading, what he did, that he attacked on the most important territory of the British in South India, Madras. And so this all of sudden attack on the Madras led to the surrender of the British. Okay? They were caught unaware and they had no option than to surrender. So at this point of time, when they surrendered, so this particular war ended with the Treaty of Madras. And as per the Treaty of Madras, that both the sides, they restored each other territory and the prisoners of war were given to each other. And at this point of time, British gave an assurance to Hyder Ali that if in future Hyder Ali would be attacked or Mysore would be attacked by any other power, so British will support Mysore. So British will support. This is an assurance that they have given. But actually it is to be seen that were these assurances true or false? And when the time came, did British turned up to support Hyder Ali, or they turned their face towards other? So actually, when the next war is going to happen, the British promise that they will be helping Hyder Ali proved to be a false promise. So we'll see that how it proved to be a false promise. So mention karo abhi, you write. Due to the territorial dispute, Marathas attacked on Mysore. Due to territorial dispute, Marathas attacked on Mysore. But very soon, Nizam of Hyderabad, and British East India Company, also joined the war. British East India Company also joined the war from the side of Maratha. Then you write side of Maratha. Hyder Ali realized that he cannot fight with three enemies. Using his diplomatic strategy, he detached. Maratha and Nizam from the war. From the war. He assured them border dispute redressal. From discussion. from discussion. Full stop. After detaching the two big powers, after detaching the two big powers, comma, Hyder Ali attacked on British area of Madras. Hyder Ali attacked on, after detaching the two big powers, Hyder Ali attacked on British area of Madras. British area of Madras. And then mention British were caught unaware. British were caught unaware, and they surrendered. British were caught unaware and they surrendered at this time. They surrendered at this time. Full stop. आगे mention करो after it. This war ended with Treaty of Madras. This war ended with Treaty of Madras, whereby Madras was restored to British. Whereby Madras was restored to British, and British promised to Hyder Ali, that in future war against Mysore, by any other power, in future war against Mysore by any other power, comma, British will come to the help of Hyder Ali. British will come to the help of Hyder Ali. Then, so just write the title and then we'll go into discussion. So mention Second Anglo-Mysore War. So 1780 to 84. So this is the time when the promise of the British will be tested. So what happened actually? With this particular discussion, okay, border dispute was not addressed. Just like, I think you must be aware that right from 2020 and we are in 24, we had near about 70 to 80 discussions with China, border dispute, redressal meetings with the China. Then, and what is the outcome? Still nothing is solved. So similarly over here also, whatever discussions which happened face to face with the Marathas, it did not lead to any redressal. And then finally what happened in 1771, once again Marathas attacked on the Mysore. So this time Hyder Ali was expecting that British will come to the rescue of the Mysore, but British did not turn up. So after this incident, Hyder Ali realized that he cannot trust the British. Okay? He cannot trust the British, and so as far as the Europeans are concerned, so only trustworthy people are the French. So he felt about the French, and then he decided that if the time comes, so he will support French. Time came, and what was the time? So 1770s were the year in which American War of Independence started in North America, and it was mainly fought with the locals and the French and the British. Then, so now at this point of time, Hyder Ali started to support French. Then, and moreover, he also provided a refuge to the French forces at one of the territory of the Mysore, that is Mahe. So looking at it, when British got to know that they have been supported by the Hyder Ali, so British attacked on Mahe, okay, in 1780, and since it was so they attacked on French, okay, but then obviously they wanted to fight with the Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali started the war at this point of time. So 1780, the second war started. Initially, it was all in the favor of the Hyder Ali, but somehow Hyder Ali was injured, and in 1782 his death has happened. So after his death, it was in the last month, in December itself, his death has happened. So the war was carried forwarded by his son Tipu Sultan. And Tipu Sultan, in the beginning, he had a very important victory against the British, which is known as Battle of Polilur. So in Battle of Polilur, he defeated British, not only defeated, but he actually shocked British. Then why so? British were very proud of their weapon technology, but then for the first time in the Indian history, somebody used a rocket, okay, and it is called as Masurian rockets. So in Battle of Polilur, Tipu Sultan has used this Masurian rockets, and British were stumped. So they were defeated, but that does not mean that British are completely defeated, okay. So some other place British have defeated the Mysore's army. So by 1784, this war seemed to be nobody is a clear victor, meaning that nobody is kind of a finally victorious. So it ended with the Treaty of Mangalore in 1784, and this Treaty of Mangalore, what it did, that both the sides exchanged the prisoners and they restored each other's territory. So actually it was a status quo kind of treaty कि जिसके पास जो पहले से था, that was returned to them. Then so this is what has happened. Now you remember what we mentioned कि after 1784 Tipu Sultan has given those instructions, 1785 and 1788. So now British will be further irritated by these instructions of the Tipu Sultan. But before going ahead into the next war, we need a small discussion on the Tipu Sultan also. पहले इतना लिख लो, then we'll have a small discussion on him. So Second Anglo-Mysore War. So first you write, first paragraph. In 1771, Marathas once again attacked on Mysore. Marathas once again attacked on Mysore due to no resolution in border dispute. Then at this time Hyder Ali expected help of British. At this time Hyder Ali expected help of British, but they did not turned up. Full stop. Mention turned up. Now Hyder Ali realized that British are highly untrustworthy. And in Europeans only French can be trusted. Then full stop. During American War of Independence, he started to support French. And he also provided refuge to French forces he also provided refuge to French forces at Mahe. French forces at Mahe. Full stop. It led to the outbreak of Second War. It led to the outbreak of Second War. Second War. Then mention. It led to outbreak of Second War. Full stop. Initially, Hyderly had upper hand. Initially, Hyderly had upper hand in this war. Upper hand in this war. But later, after his death in 1782, in 1782, 1782, British started to control the direction of war. Started to control the direction of war. Full stop. Then mention. Started to control the direction of war. Full stop. Son of Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan. Son of Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan carried forwarded the war, and he had a big victory against British, in the Battle of Polilur. Battle of Polilur. Done. Then mention. In this battle, Tipu Sultan used innovative Masurian rockets. Innovative Masurian rockets. Masurian rockets, which led to his victory. Full stop. Then mention. By 1784, this war proved to be inconclusive. By 1784, this war proved to be inconclusive. And ended with Treaty of Mangalore. Then, as per the treaty, both the sides, exchanged prisoners. And also restored each other's territory. Then, so let's talk about Tipu Sultan. So Tipu Sultan was equally capable like his father, and moreover, he was also very sharp and very intelligent. So as far as the personality of the Tipu Sultan is concerned, it is said that he didn't had a great height. Then he was just about 5.6. Okay? But then, despite 5.6, he was a very good fighter. Then, and in fact he was very good in wrestling, and he was bold, courageous. It is said that he often used to walk with a tiger, and that's why he was called as the tiger of the Mysore. Then, so he often walked with the tiger. Then when it comes to the values of the Tipu Sultan, so he was very crystal clear in some of it. Then, so first of all, that he was the member of the Jacobin Club of the France. ध्यान से समझना, देखो 1789 was the year in the world scenario. There are many such things are happening. एक तो 1780s के पहले अमेरिकन वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस, एंड देन 1785 के बाद देयर इज दिस पर्टिकुलर फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन in 1789 particularly. So the people of the France have risen against their kings who were the Louis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, 17, 18. This is very bizarre that how people will be remembering that which Louis has done what Louis. Okay? So now, so understand, so French Revolution, the initial beginnings are there. Jacobin Club has played a vital role in the French Revolution. So he was subscribed to the French Jacobin Club or member of the Jacobin Club. Then apart from it, when the French Revolution has happened, so Tipu Sultan supported French Revolution, and then moreover, to mark his support to the French Revolution, what he did that he planted a tree of liberty in his capital Seringapatnam. Then, so tree of liberty. Then he also sought an alliance with the France. So alliance with the France, and moreover he also sought the friendship with the Napoleon. Then, so there was regular exchange of the letters between them. Then apart from it, he also started a new system of coinage, and so as the calendar system, very similar to the French calendar system in the Mysore. Then there is a one controversial talk about, not controversial, I would tell you the exact fact that what has happened. So now elections are over, then so much of the that aggressive exchange between all the parties are also over. Then so in the elections they become enemy, and then after they are friends. Then and more of the moreover, one more thing, that many of the historical stuff is raked up. Okay, is raked up to bring the benefit to the parties. This is what we call politics, and it will happen. So अभी तक समझ में नहीं आया? I'll tell you what is exact. Tipu Sultan has been often projected as that he contributed a lot towards the Sringeri Sharada Peetham. Let me tell you what is the Sringeri Sharada Peetham. First of all, Sringeri Sharada Peetham. So Sharada is what? Goddess Durga. Then, so Goddess Durga, and it is one of the very famous places associated with the Goddess Durga, Sringeri Sharada Peetham in Karnataka. And this is one of the 4 mutt which was established by Adi Shankaracharya. And these 4 mutt, so one was the Sringeri Sharada Peetham, other is the Dwaraka, then Jagannath Puri, and then Jyotirmath, which is closer to Badnai hai. This happens in the politics. So he donated to it. Then now after it, what has happened, and there were crimes of the Tipu Sultan also. There are good aspects also that we are going to discuss, but crimes. So he was actually, before it, what he has done, that he was known for his notorious death punishments. Then, and in fact, anyone from Karnataka in this class? A good number of the people. Okay? So at least 2 are there. And specifically Bangalore, you're also from Karnataka? Yes. So Bangalore, you're from Bangalore. So you must have been to Nandi Hills. Okay? And you must have seen Tipu drop then. So there is a very famous location in the Bangalore, very close to Bangalore, in Chikbalpur district of the Bangalore, Nandi Hills. There was a notorious point over there in the Nandi Hills where Tipu Sultan used to carry these people, and then they were dropped from that particular place into the valley to death. Then, so he was notorious for it also, and he has persecuted large number of the people. But let's come to the other aspect. On one hand, he is notorious for killing the people. On the other hand, he was also that man of conviction, that whatever values he is holding, he'll be sticking to it. Let's listen. In we'll be writing it later on, but I'm telling you the story. So in 1798, Wellesley has arrived as the new Governor General of Bengal, and then at that point of time, Wellesley has come up with the one such scheme which is known as subsidiary alliance system. So subsidiary alliance system, he offered it to Tipu Sultan, that he said that either you accept it, okay, Or if you accept it, so Mysore would be saved from any British attack. But then if you don't accept it, so then Mysore would be attacked by British and we will annex it. So Tipu Sultan at that point of time, he made a very emphatic statement. And what was the emphatic statement? एक बार ध्यान से समझना, ठीक है? So this is, he said, I would better die like a soldier. I would better die like a soldier than a miserable dependent on the infidels. In the list of their, I would better die like a soldier than a miserable dependent on the infidels in the list of their pensioned Rajas and Nawabs. So you will understand the importance of this particular saying later on in 1857 also. Let's understand this saying. So I would better die like a soldier. Clear? He is saying that कि मैं मरना पसंद करूंगा rather than living. So I would better die like a soldier than a miserable dependent on the infidels. So who are infidels? Infidels is धोखेबाज, ठीक है? And who he calling as the infidels? British. So they have done given so much of dhokha to everybody. In fact, his own father itself, whatever words they have given, are they trustworthy? They were not trustworthy. And then he said that than a miserable dependent on the infidels in their list of their pensioned Rajas and Nawab. So he's taking a jibe on the Indian rulers, many Indian rulers who have accepted the British pension. Then, so who have accepted the British pension. And by this point of time when he said, already the Mughal emperor, Shah Alam, okay, he has accepted the British pension. Then, and many other rulers have also accepted the British pension. So he did not accepted any kind of pension or any kind of patronage with the British. So he was crystal clear that who are the enemies, and he always, though he is notorious, he was known for his cruelty, he was known for his friendship with the French, he was known for many things, but he is also known for the man who believed in bravery and the man who believed not to be bowed down before anybody. Then be it British or anybody. So this is what made Tipu Sultan one of the unique character in the Indian history. So this is one part. Another thing, that Tipu Sultan was one of the progenitor of the ideas that British rule must be thrown away from India. There is no denial in it. Then, so he never wanted that there would be any kind of foreign rule in India. India must be ruled by the people of the India itself. So mention, right? So third, so what we have written, Mangalore, Treaty of Mangalore tak. So third picture, Tipu Sultan as a title you write, and just write little bit about him. Third war we'll see after the break. So Tipu Sultan, and mention, he was a bold and courageous ruler. He was a bold and courageous ruler. He was often referred as Tiger of Mysore. He was often referred as Tiger of Mysore. Then mention further, Tiger of Mysore, full stop. He supported French Revolution. He supported French Revolution and became member of, he supported French Revolution and became member of Jacobin Club of France. Jacobin Club of France. Full stop. To display his support to French Revolution, to display his support to French Revolution, he planted a tree of liberty. He planted a tree of liberty at his capital, Seringpatnam. At his capital, Seringpatnam. Seringpatnam, full stop. He also sought an alliance, S-O-U-G-H-T. He also sought an alliance with Napoleon of France. He also sought an alliance with Napoleon of France, so as The king of Afghanistan, Zaman Shah. So as monarch of Afghanistan, mention karo, monarch of Afghanistan, Zaman Shah. I have written the name in over here, you can see Zaman Shah. Then mention, he also initiated a new system of coinage. He also initiated a new system of coinage and calendar in Mysore. And calendar in Mysore. Full stop. Then mention, he had very strong conviction. He had very strong conviction in his values. He had very strong convictions in his values. When British East India Company offered him to join subsidiary alliance he refused by saying, so quote unquote you mention, I would better die like a soldier. I would better die like a soldier than a miserable dependent on the infidels. Dependent on the infidels in the list of their pensioned Rajas and Nawabs. Pensioned Rajas and Nawabs. So this was his statement. I would better die like a soldier than a miserable dependent on the infidels in the list of their pensioned Rajas and Nawabs. So we'll see, and actually after this statement of the Tipu Sultan, the fourth war started, but then uske pehle we need to discuss the third war also, and then we'll look into the fourth war. So take break and then after we'll continue. So let's talk about, so the next is the third Anglo-Mysore war. So already the reasons are there from 1785, Tipu Sultan's instructions, but then there is something which is called as precipitating factor, meaning the immediate reason of the attack. So please understand, in Travancore or basically Kerala part, so Cochin area, and in Cochin area, under the control of the Cochin or in the territory of the Cochin, there were two Dutch habitations, and these two Dutch habitations were Jallikottal and Kannanur. Right? So Jallikottal and Kannanur, and by 1790s, Dutch were winding up their operations from this area. So they were selling their properties in this area. They sold Jallikottal and Kannanur to Travancore ruler, who was an adversary of the Cochin ruler, and Cochin ruler was the Darbari or the noble of the Tipu Sultan. So at this point of time, Tipu Sultan tried to stop Travancore from purchasing these two territories of the Jallikottal and Kannanur. But since Travancore ruler did not stop and he went on with the purchase, so Tipu Sultan attacked on Travancore. And when he attacked on Travancore in 1790, so British got an excuse to fight from the side of the Travancore ruler. But British along with them also brought Maratha and Nizam. So now this is the battle which was the very decisive battle, and in this four powers on one side, Travancore, then British, Nizam and Maratha, and on one hand Tipu Sultan. So Tipu Sultan was thoroughly defeated in this third battle, after which what has happened that when he is defeated, so that Treaty of Seringamapatnam, and Treaty of Seringamapatnam, according to it, half of the Masurian territory was taken by this fighting partners, and so as Tipu Sultan was forced to pay 3.3 crore rupees as war damage price. The important area which was taken away by these fighting partners was Malabar, Dindigul and Baramahal. So Baramahal is a territory in Karnataka, then Malabar we already know, and Dindigul is territory in Tamil Nadu. So these three territories were taken by these fighting partners. So mention Third Anglo-Mysore War. Third Anglo-Mysore War. And this one you mentioned 1790 to 92. You're right. By 1790s, by 1790, Dutch were winding up their operations from South India. Then mention they sold their properties at so write the name of these two places which I have written on board: Jallikottal and Travancore. They sold their properties at Jallikottal and Jallikottal and Kannanur to the ruler of Travancore. Ruler of Travancore. Then mention, since these areas were in Cochin, and Cochin was feudatory of Tipu Sultan. Full stop. Tipu Sultan, comma. Hence, Tipu warned Travancore from purchasing the property. Hence, Tipu warned Travancore from purchasing the property. Then mention after it, purchasing the property. When the ruler of Travancore did not paid any heed comma, Tipu Sultan attacked on Travancore. Then mention, very soon British joined the war. Along with Maratha and Nizam, along with Maratha and Nizam, from the side of Travancore, from the side of Travancore. Mention, as a result, from the side of Travancore, as a result, Tipu Sultan was thoroughly defeated. Tipu Sultan was thoroughly defeated, and this war ended with Treaty of Seringapatnam. Ended with Treaty of Seringapatnam. Then ended with Treaty of Seringapatnam. Full stop. Then mention. As per the treaty, half of the Masurian territory, as per the treaty, half of the Masurian territory, including the areas of Malabar, Baramahal and Dindigal was taken away, by the fighting partners, full stop. Moreover, 3.3 crore rupees, 3.3 crore rupees war indemnity was imposed on 3.3 crore rupees war indemnity was imposed on Tipu Sultan. So this is what is about the Treaty of Seringapatnam and the Third War. Now understand. So this is the time. Let's understand one more thing which happened in between. So when we wrote that Tipu sought an alliance with the Napoleon, and when is the rise of Napoleon? Obviously after the French Revolution, that is 1789. So he sought an alliance with that. And this is the time when he has written a letter to the ruler of the Zaman Shah. He invited the Afghanistan ruler to come to India, and then he maintained to him that let's throw out the British rule from India, and then with the help of the Zaman Shah, he can establish a kingdom grand kingdom in the southern India. So looking at these all information, Wellesley, who came in 1798, he charge sheeted Tipu that he is planning and plotting against the British. And then Wellesley offered him to become the subsidiary alliance partner. Either he refuses it, or if he accepts it, so then the kingdom will be saved. But if he refuses, so then the attack would be there. So Tipu Sultan made that statement which you have already written. He refused. And then after, so Seringapatnam was stormed by the British forces. But here we need to understand, in Bengal episode we talked about Mir Jafar. He is often regarded as a traitor number one. But then there was one more traitor in the Mysore's army itself. One of the important officer of the Tipu Sultan, his name was Mir Sadiq. And Mir Sadiq, what he did, that he provided all the strategic information about the Mysore army and so as the Seringapatnam fort to the British. So for example, that he gave the information that where their armory is there, where the weapons are kept, where the horse stable is there, and what are the numbers of the soldiers, which gateway is weak, which gateway is strong, each and every information he gave. And that's how. So in April 1799 this war started, and it was completed within 40 days only. British stormed into the Seringapatnam fort, and Tipu Sultan died defending his capital, Seringapatnam. So in 1799 Tipu Sultan defeated and killed, and so as The Vodeyar dynasty, once again, it was reinstated on the throne, but then under subsidiary alliance system. So what is this subsidiary alliance system? We will be covering in the Maratha episode. We'll be writing all the parts of the subsidiary alliance system in the Maratha. So mention, you write. Third war already we have mentioned. Just don't write the fourth war, but some details you write. Just change paragraph and mention. In between 1792 to 98, in between 1792 to 98, Tipu Sultan started to strengthen. Tipu Sultan started to strengthen his bond with his bond with Napoleon of France and Zaman Shah of Afghanistan. Done? Then mention Zaman Shah of Afghanistan. In 1798, the new Governor General of Bengal, was Wellesley. Now understand. So Wellesley. इसके पहले कहीं Wellesley का नाम mention किया है? Have we mentioned? Where? We haven't mentioned his name. I don't think so. नहीं mention किया. There were two Wellesley. This question has been asked in UPSC. अभी मैंने Wellesley पे छोड़ दिया. Just listen. See that there were two Wellesleys. ठीक है? So it is asked that which Wellesley came with the subsidiary alliance. So I'm giving you the options. So Arthur and Richard. ठीक है? So one name is Arthur Wellesley, another is Richard Wellesley. So who came with the subsidiary alliance system? It is Richard. So Arthur was his brother actually, and he was the Duke of Wellington then. So he was also holding a very important position in the British Empire, but he was not the Governor General of the Bengal. So it is Richard Wellesley. So yaad rakhna. And actually all of us, majority of us, not just you, but then I was taking classes in Bangalore and so as in the other areas of the southern India also. Sab jagah pe, everywhere, everyone says that Arthur Wellesley. So Arthur Wellesley was not the officer. It was Richard Wellesley. Okay? So he's the one who came up with this subsidiary alliance system. So pura naam likh lo. Write a full name. What you have written? That. So new Governor General of Bengal, Richard Wellesley came with subsidiary alliance policy. And so now you can write the title, Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. 1799. Mention. Wellesley charge-seated Tipu Sultan. Of planning and plotting. Charge-seated Tipu Sultan of planning and plotting against British East India Company with the help of France and Afghanistan. Full stop, then mention. He gave option to Tipu Sultan. That to accept subsidiary alliance, that to accept subsidiary alliance or prepared or to be prepared for the war, to be prepared for the war, full stop, to be prepared for the war. Tipu Sultan rejected the offer. Tipu Sultan rejected the offer, full stop, then mention. At this point of time, one of the trusted officer of Mysore, Mir Sadiq, treacherously, gave all the strategic information, about Mysore forces, all the strategic information about Mysore forces and Seringapatnam fort, Mysore forces and Seringapatnam fort to British East India Company, BEIC, to British East India Company, full stop. In 1799, the Fourth War started. And in 1799, the Fourth War started and it was over within 40 days. It was over within 40 days. Then mention it was over within 40 days, full stop. After it you write, Tipu Sultan laid down his life. Tipu Sultan laid down his life defending his capital. Tipu Sultan laid down his life defending his capital, Seringapatnam. Defending his capital, Seringapatnam. Done. So this is what is about the Tipu Sultan's episode. Change paragraph and one last line you write. After the death of Tipu, Wadiyar dynasty was reappointed. Wadiyar dynasty was reappointed on Mysore's throne, but it was kept under subsidiary alliance system. It was kept under subsidiary alliance system. So we'll see that what was this subsidiary alliance. Maratha में ही लिखेंगे, ठीक है? So then you will understand that what all terms and conditions were there in the subsidiary alliance. So now by this point of time we have seen some of the regional dynasties, that is basically Carnatic already we covered and Bengal we have completed, so as Mysore. So let's start with one more big kingdom, that is the Marathas. Then so mention Maratha Empire. So Maratha Empire, and see the story of the Maratha Empire is in medieval also and so as in the this part also. So some interconnected parts definitely we will mention in the class. But एक काम करो, सबसे पहले we will write all those important timelines and then we'll go into the story. So write the timeline. Just give me 1 minute. So mention foundation of Maratha Empire. 1674 by Chhatrapati Maharaj. Then, so Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, his death happened in 1680, and then after his son, so eldest son Sambhaji became the next Chhatrapati. Chhatrapati means king of the area. So I am writing the name here, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. And timeline from 1680 to 89. Then next you write Chhatrapati Raja Ram. Will tell you who is he, but first you write Tarabai, regent of Shivaji II. Regent of Shivaji II, and 1700 to 1707. Sahu. And who is Sahu? Son of Sambhaji. Released from Mughal captivity. And one last line. Confrontation between Tarabai and Sahu. So this is continuing from 1707 to 1713. Sixteen 1707 itself. In 1707. बता रहा Wait. First you write first. Done? So now listen. Let's start with it. So foundation of the Maratha Empire 1674 by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, but already he had this characteristic of the ruler right from 1650s itself. Then, so you will learn about the Shivaji's story, who was contemporary of the Aurangzeb. Then, but then Aurangzeb has done one thing. I think I have shared this story, that how he arrested Shivaji. Have I? I have shared this story. So how he arrested in the Agra court, and then after Shivaji has decided that he will not let Aurangzeb to penetrate through Deccan. He is rewinning his territory, and in 1674 he celebrated his coronation ceremony. So after that, the firm foundation of the Maratha Empire has been laid down. Till 1680, Aurangzeb has no chance in the Deccan. But then, when the natural death of the Shivaji has happened, so Aurangzeb will be restarting his campaign. So first of all, understand these people who we have written. Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj was the eldest son of the Shivaji, and Chhatrapati Rajaram was the younger son of the Shivaji. So 1689, Sambhaji Maharaj was captured by Aurangzeb, and he was hacked to death by Aurangzeb. Then, after this particular capturing, not after, it also, the capturing also included his son, Sambhaji's son, who is Sahu, and also the wife of Sambhaji. So, though the life of Sahu and wife was spared, but Sambhaji was killed. Then, in this scenario, younger son of Shivaji, Rajaram, became the ruler. His death happened in 1700, and Tarabai is the wife of Chhatrapati Rajaram. So she is the one who is ruling for next 7-8 years, and she is ruling on the behalf of the regent or behalf of the son, her son Shivaji II. So who will be Shivaji II? Grandson of Shivaji. Okay? And so as Sahu is also grandson of Shivaji. You have already studied the story that Sahu was released from the Mughal Empire in 1707. Later Mughals में हमने पढ़ा है, ठीक है? And we had the discussion also that why Bahadur Shah released him. So when he was released, so what Bahadur Shah first was expecting that there would be confrontation with the Tarabai, that proved to be true, because Tarabai was trying to preserve the seat of the king for her son Shivaji II, and then Sahu is the eldest grandson of the Shivaji. So this confrontation continued till 1707, and in this confrontation, a big name came out, which not only that this big name not only resolved the dispute between Tarabai and Sahu, but also he acquired new powers for himself, and this person was Balaji Vishwanath. Then, so Balaji Vishwanath, he was the Peshwa, and he was the Peshwa with the renewed powers. So now understand that Peshwa is not a position which is created in 1713. Peshwa is a position which already existed from the time of the Shivaji Maharaj. Then, so just one thing, one exercise we need to do further at this time, that when Shivaji Maharaj laid the foundation of the Maratha Empire, so then he created a 8 ministerial system of the Maratha administration, and this 8 ministerial system of the Maratha administration is known as Ashtapradhan system. Ashta means 8. Okay, so 8 ministerial system. So let's write about it, then I'll further add the story of the Balaji Vishwanath. So ek kaam karo, just write a title, mention Ashtapradhan system. Mention it was initiated by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in 1674. So I'm writing all the positions, okay? 8 ministers. So very first one is Peshwa. We'll write what is the meaning of these words. Majumadar, Wakia Navis, Sur Navis, so Peshwa is Prime Minister. Majumadar would be Finance Minister. Wakia Navis is Interior Minister. Sur Navis is Secretary. Sumant, Sare Nobat, न्यायाधीश and Pandit Rao. Sumant, correspondence minister. Sare Nohmad is commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief, न्यायाधीश, chief justice, Pandit Rao, religious minister, or he is religious affair. So religious affair minister. Then, so these were the 8 prime ministerial system of the, sorry, 8 ministerial system of the Maratha administration, which was initiated by Shivaji Maharaj, and it continued till the end of the Maratha Empire. But then understand, out of these all, the most important position was the Peshwa. And the first Peshwa appointed by Shivaji Maharaj was Moropant Pingle in 1674. So now, who is Balaji Vishwanath? Now listen. So Balaji Vishwanath, he came to power in 1713 as the new Peshwa. Okay? But then the Peshwa with the renewed powers. So not only he'll solve the dispute between the Tarabai and Sahu, but also renewed the powers for himself. Earlier, the position of Peshwa was not hereditary. Okay? It was not hereditary. It is the changing every time. So based on capability of a person. Balaji Vishwanath, with his diplomatic tactics, he turned the house of Peshwa hereditary, which means that if he is Peshwa, so the next Peshwa would be his son, and it will remain in his family only. So this is how he turned the office of Peshwa a hereditary position. Then apart from it, he also was instrumental in securing many rights from the that Mughal kings of that time. So the right of Chauth and Sardeshmukhi, you remember that we discussed in that particular later Mughal episode. So he is the one who secured the order of the Chauth and Sardeshmukhi of the Deccan from the Mughal emperor. And then there is one more contribution of his, that is Saranjami system. We will talk about it later. First you write this much. So mention in 1713, 13, ठीक है, Balaji Vishwanath solved the dispute between Tarabai and Sahu. Solved the dispute between Tarabai and Sahu, and he also acquired new powers for himself. He also acquired new powers for himself as the next Peshwa. So you can write his name and this timeline, and we'll go into the initiatives of the Balaji Vishwanath as the next Peshwa. So now, एक बार फिर से समझ लो, ठीक है? So not only he made the office of the Peshwa hereditary, but now by this point of time, it has been very crystal clear that though the Sahu would be the new Chhatrapati, meaning that he will be the new king, ठीक है? And so Sahu would be the symbolic head of the kingdom, but all the administrative things would be in the hands of the Balaji Vishwanath, ठीक है? So he will be the administrative head of the country, and Sahu would be the symbolic head or figurative head of the country. So this was decided. Then moreover, he is the one who secured the Mughal order of Chauth and Sardeshmukhi of Deccan. Then and he was also involved in the killing of the emperor, later Mughal emperor, what's his name? Farooq Siyar. You remember that he was blinded and later on he was killed by Sayyid brother. So he was also involved in that. Then apart from it, it is the Balaji Vishwanath who consolidated the Maratha confederacy system of the Saranjami. So we need to discuss a little bit about the Saranjami. So Saranjami is exactly similar to what we saw in the Mughal period Mansabdari. Then you remember that Mughal Mansabdari, that what we mentioned over there. So we'll tell you about it in elaborate. पहले थोड़ा सा लिखो, then we'll go. Mention with his diplomatic tactics, Balaji Vishwanath, with his diplomatic tactics, Balaji Vishwanath turned the office of Peshwa into a hereditary position. Turned the office of Peshwa into a hereditary position. Full stop. Then mention. He became the administrative head of Maratha Empire. And Chhatrapati Sahu as the figurehead of Maratha Empire. Chhatrapati Sahu as the figurehead of Maratha Empire. Figurehead of Maratha Empire. Then full stop. Then you write. He secured the Mughal order. Recognizing Chauth and Sardes Mukhi of Deccan. Chauth and Sardes Mukhi of Deccan. To Marathas. Deccan to Marathas. Then change paragraph and then you mention. He consolidated the Maratha Confederacy. Of Saranjami. Maratha Confederacy of Saranjami. So let's understand what is Saranjami system. So you can write it as a subtitle. Saranjami system. So understand, this is derived from the word Saranjam. And what is Saranjam? Saranjam is a land grant, piece of land. Land grant or piece of land. Now listen. So originally the Saranjami system was initiated by Chhatrapati Rajaram. And Chhatrapati Rajaram to seek the loyalty of the important Maratha chiefs. So basically what he did, that all those Maratha chiefs which are providing the military support to the Chhatrapati, they were given a temporary land grant. Exactly similar to the Mughal Jagirdari, that you remember Tankhwah Jagir we mentioned. It was a temporary Jagir given to the Jagirdar, and what is the Jagirdar or Jagirdar Mansabdar, what he is doing to the giving to the Mughal emperor? Military support. So यहाँ पे भी वैसे ही है, that they are given a temporary land grant, and this temporary land grant is known as Saranjam, and in lieu of it they are providing the military support to the Maratha monarch. But then Balaji, what he did, that Balaji Vishwanath, he turned this Saranjam into, which was a temporary land grant, into a permanent land grant. And what word we use for the permanent land grant in Mughal? Watan. Okay? So now this Saranjam will become Watan. Okay? So it became Watan and it will become permanent land grant. So this is the change that he has brought. And as per this permanent land grant, 5 important houses of the Maratha emerged by this point of time, and these houses you all have heard. यहाँ पे अलग से सुन रहे हो. So these houses are Sindhyas of Gwalior, Gaikwads of Baroda, and Holkars of Indore, Bhosle of Nagpur, and Peshwa of Pune. ठीक है? So Peshwa of Pune. So these 5 houses got the permanent land grant. Then, so mention, you're right. It is derived from the word Saranjam. It is derived from the word Saranjam, which means temporary land grant. It is derived from the word Saranjam, which means temporary land grant. Temporary land grant. Then mention, it was initiated by Chhatrapati Raja Ram. It was initiated by Chhatrapati Raja Ram to seek the loyalty of important Maratha chiefs. Full stop. In the return of land grant, Maratha chiefs provided military support. Maratha chiefs provided military support to Maratha Empire. Military support to Maratha Empire. Full stop. Then mention, Balaji Vishwanath turned the temporary land grant into a permanent land grant that is Vatan. Turned the temporary land grant into a permanent land grant that is Vatan. That is Vatan. It led to the emergence of five important Maratha houses. So you write these all houses name. So start with Gaikwad of Baroda, Peshwa of Pune, then Sindhya of Gwalior, then Holkars of Indore, and Bhosle of Nagpur. Bhosle of Nagpur. Done. So that's about the Balaji Vishwanath's tenure. एक last line लिखो, ठीक है? Just change paragraph and then write. Balaji Vishwanath assisted Sayyad brothers. Balaji Vishwanath assisted Sayyad brothers in the removal of Balaji Vishwanath assisted Sayyad brothers in the removal of later Mughal Emperor Farrukh Siyar. Later Mughal Emperor Farrukh Siyar. So we have already covered this particular part for Uxiar episode. So now, the next Peshwa after it was the son of the Balaji Vishwanath. He was Bajirao first, and he was one of the most famous Peshwas till this point of time. So we will learn about his story in the tomorrow's class. Done? And then after, listen, tomorrow's class, I hope that we'll be able to complete the part of the regional kingdom. So उसके बाद जो class होगी, we'll be starting with the administration of the British East India Company in this duration, particularly from the beginning till 1857. Done? Chalo, thank you.